impurity. And we're dealing with what's called tumas mace, the impurity of a corpse. As we've learned, that touching, carrying, or being in the same under a structure that has a covered structure of a human corpse brings impurity, right? By the way, that's why a kohen doesn't go into a cemetery. We're all Tamei Meis today. We're all impure because we've all come in contact. If you've been in a hospital, if you ever visited a hospital, then you're impure because for sure someone there had died when you had visited, right? At one point at least, maybe not one floor, but and being that one building with the openings, the way the openings are, that's what we learned yesterday. Actually, we learned about doors and you know how impurities, how they travel, so to speak, the impurity. So a hospital, they have doors between and between one section and another section. That means the impurity isn't just in the room that you're in, it's going throughout, right? That's why in Hadassah Hospital, for example, they have double doors. One door opens, the other door is closed. That door closes, and only then the other door will be open. So that way, it's possible for a kohen to be in some part of the hospital, right? No, it is Jewish. Why? What do you mean? The Jewish general? No. Yeah. Even in Israel, I think might be two hospitals like that, you know. Now this is, you know. Right. Okay. So we're in chapter 9. So when a person is digging in a field and he found many corpses in one pit, one on top of the other, or one next to the other, or if he found the bodies of people who were slain, or he found a corpse sitting or with its hands between its knees, he need not be concerned that perhaps this was a cemetery, right? Because what would be if it was a cemetery? Then the whole area would be a place of impurity. But if it was only in one place, right? So obviously there was some kind of pogrom or, you know, whatever, some battle that ensued, and there was a mass burial. That's what happened. Right? There was a mass burial. So you don't have to assume that if you found over here a bunch of, several corpses, that it's throughout the entire field. Okay, and meaning that was a cemetery maybe 1,000 years ago. Instead, he should take the corpse and all the soft earth beneath it, and then dig down 3 finger breadths. He should then take all of this away. The remainder of the field, is considered as pure, just as it was before the corpse was discovered. This earth and the 3 finger breadths are virgin soil are called tavusa of the corpse. In other words, it's been affected by the earth and has, and we'll go further. Okay, number 2. When the bodies of slain corpses are found in a field, one should collect all the bones from the field, and then it is pure. Right? So what's being done over here is about the field to be pure, as opposed to, taking care of the corpse. That's not the so much the discussion over here, right? Discussion is about the field, that it should not become impure. So just as a reminder, I mean, what we learned previously, a corpse that is in the earth, you say, well, but you're on top of it. So the concept of, and as the Rambam teaches us, that these laws of impurity or purity are a decree of the Torah. In other words, not a particular rationality, shall we say. There might be a rationality in the law, but the fact is that if a corpse is in the earth, then its impurity shoots up to the heavens, upwards. So anything that's over it becomes impure. Okay? Unless it's like in a structure, right? If it's in a structure, right? A home. Here. Let's say this is a home, right? And there's a corpse inside here. The fact that there has to be at least one tefach between the corpse and the ceiling, the roof. It can be more, but at least one. And then this becomes a container. And it contains the impurity. It doesn't shoot up through the roof. But if it's in the earth, or even if it was in this home and it was right next to the roof, then it shoots up and down.
Shoots up
and down. In other words, if you're standing underneath it or you're standing on top of the roof, you become impure. If it, in our instance, it's here, we're talking about in the earth. So it's in the earth without a grave, right? We're talking about they were slain. So it's without a grave. That means if it was in a grave, if it was in a coffin, it'd be a different story because then then it becomes the coffin becomes the container. And therefore it doesn't shoot up because it's contained within it, just like the oil, the structured, right, a covered structure contains it. When you go to the oil of the Rebbe, it's open, right? Although that's a bit different. So, which means you can be inside there and you're not contained by it.
because it's better though.
But it's if it had a roof, then whoever comes in there, a coin couldn't come in there. A coin can come in there. You have to, he has to make sure he doesn't go into the rest. There's oil, there's fences, so it separates you from the impurity, right? Koyin, right? And he can go inside there. How can he go inside there? Is because he's also there's no oil there. It's open. We call it an oil, but it's not a closed structure. Because a closed structure doesn't allow the impurity to go beyond the structure, but everything within the structure is impure, right? So the same concept is the slain bodies in this field that you found, right? Because they're slain and they're not in an arain, in a coffin, so their impurity is going straight up. So you're standing on the ground, you get impure. So those bodies need to be removed from there in order that field should not be a field of impurity. They have to be, right? Similarly, if one disinters a corpse from the grave in this field, meaning you're moving it, right? He should gather all the bones one by one, and then it's pure. Because if there's a bone left, then there'll be impurity left. So a pit into which miscarried fetuses or slain corpses are cast, one should gather all the bones one by one, and then it's pure, right? Remove from there. Number 3. If one was digging and he discovered a corpse buried in an ordinary manner, he should remove it, and then the earth is there tevusa. The term tevusa. No, the tefusa is the three hand breadths, right? Like about 8 inches or 9 inches that you remove with it. Okay. Because it's in an ordinary manner. Similarly, if he discovered two corpses buried in an ordinary manner, he should remove both of them, and the earth is there, and their tabus, and the entire field is pure. More stringent is otherwise one finds three corpses, each one lying in a manner in which the corpses are usually buried. If there are between 4 or 8 cubits between one grave and another, the space of a beer and the barriers, it is necessary to check the additional 20 cubits. So 3 is always what we call a chazaka, that it shows that there's something more permanent here. So you only find 2 burials. You don't have to assume that the whole field is a cemetery. But if you found 3, now you got a problem. Now you've got to check the additional 20 cubits, which is about 30 feet around it, to see if there's any more being buried, especially if they're buried in a separateness in a manner that it looks like that, that there might be a cemetery there. The space of 2 burial crypts and the open space between them from the last grave. If he does not find another corpse in this space, those 20 cubits they checked are pure, even though there's an area close. They are in an area close to graves. It's pure because it's only if it was a cemetery being impure. And others, people did that, right? They buried, not in a cemetery necessarily, right? As we learn in the Torah that it's called a mace mitzvah. If you found someone who was, who had died outside of the city, and there's no one there to bury them, and there's no one there to bury them, you have the mitzvah to bury them. And guess where you bury them? Where you found them. So that's a possibility that that's what it could be, and therefore it's not a cemetery. If he finds another corpse at the end of 20 cubit area, it is necessary to check another 20 cubits, for there is a basis of assumption that other graves will be found. If one of the corpses that he found originally or ultimately had been slain while sitting or lying or in an ordinary manner, its head between its knees, it is not necessary to check another 20 cubits. Instead, one must merely remove the remains of the corpse and its tefusa, the 3, right? The part of that's 3 finger breadths. It wasn't 3 hand breadths, 3 finger breadths. The rationale is that we operate on the presumption the corpse are of non-Jews. Why is that? Because they're not buried the way Jews are buried, I guess. Okay, I have to stop here. Thank you, folks.